Welcome to the Chemistry Lab. This video will provide you with several demonstrations so that you can have a sense of good laboratory practices to help you have a successful semester. As you enter the lab in your appropriate attire, place your personal items in the assigned area. Your PPE, such as your lab coat and goggles, will be put on at a designated time. A lab notebook with copies that either contain carbon or are carbonless, like in this example, is required. You should label the cover of the notebook with your name prior to coming to lab. You'll find a copy protector that usually displays the periodic table and may be attached or detachable. The purpose of this protector is to place it behind each copy sheet to prevent writing that you do on the top from bleeding through the rest of the notebook. And this allows you to save your work if we were to request that you submit your handwritten data by tearing out the copy sheets. Pencil is not allowed in a lab notebook. Instead, blue or black ink should be used. Here you can see an example of a pre-lab notebook entry that features the headings, purpose, bulleted procedures, space for modifications as well as observations, and the data sheets. Next, I'll introduce common glassware that you'll encounter. Note that in many cases, a variety of sizes are available, but not all options will be shown in this video. First up are beakers. They're beakers because of the beak that allows for easy pouring. Now we have an Erlenmeyer flask that is great for mixing and swirling. You'll notice that there are several labels on the side of this particular flask that even cover the graduations. While labels are always encouraged, it's also important to place them correctly, which means not covering the markings, and to remove them during the cleanup process. Here are graduated cylinders. They also have a beak to easily dispense the measured liquid. Last is an alcohol thermometer used to measure temperature by placing the bulb in the substance to be monitored. Balances are frequently used to weigh solid samples. It is very important that they are never moved and always kept clean. In this instance, spills were present on the balance pan and digital screen. Windshields on the sides and top can be opened to access the balance. I'm taking a brush provided in the blue bin to gently clean the balance pan and the base of the balance. I then use the brush to clean the screen. The removed solid can be left on the blue bench underpad as they will routinely be changed by lab support staff. After cleaning, we'll begin the process of weighing the sample by placing a weigh boat on the balance. The weigh boat is simply a container to hold the solid for easy measurement and transfer, but you'll notice that there's a mass associated with it. To address this, we tare, which means to set the balance to display 0 grams, so that we can easily determine the mass of our desired solid. You can see that it is easiest to avoid spills by opening the side windshields and using a scoop or spatula to introduce the sample to the weigh boat. Make sure to record all digits shown on the balance in your notebook and clean up any spills immediately. While we always avoid overshooting, sometimes we end up with excess solid. We never return solids to the stock bottle once removed. Any excess solid can be placed in a labeled weigh boat and offered to another group in your section. If no one can use the sample, it can safely be discarded based on your instructor's guidance. The solid that we weighed is now going to serve as the solute in a solution. Quantitative transfer is the process of ensuring that as much of your sample makes its way from one vessel to another. I am introducing the solid to the glassware to be used for the solution. Some solid remains on the weigh boat, so I am using a solvent to rinse the weigh boat and quantitatively transfer the solid into the beaker. You can repeat this process until all traces of the solid have been transferred. We can finish preparing our solution by adding the remaining solvent. While in the process of measuring an unknown liquid, a spill was identified. It's very important to consult your instructor on the safest way to clean up a spill, especially when the identity of the chemical is unknown. This can help us to avoid unintended reactions. After the spill has been safely taken care of, we can continue the experiment. I'm recording the unknown ID in my notebook and using a clean, labeled secondary container to more easily handle the unknown liquid while measuring. Remember, we can't pour liquid back into the stock bottle, so we can either donate the excess to another group or discard the liquid if no one else can use it. Using the secondary container, I'm pouring into the graduated cylinder until I get close to my desired measurement. To avoid overshooting, I'm using a clean transfer pipette to add the last bit of liquid dropwise. Then I'll place the pipette in the container labeled dirty and record the measured volume in my notebook. To use a hot plate, first plug in the cable, making sure to avoid allowing the cord to touch the surface. Many of our hot plates also have steering capabilities that we will not need unless a magnetic stir bar is also being used. We can turn on the heat, I typically recommend a medium level, and place our substance to be heated on the plate. If boiling stones are necessary, use only 1 or 2. To avoid burning our skin after using the hot plate, you never want to use the nitrile gloves to directly touch the hot glassware. Instead, put on heat gloves so that you can remove the glassware and place it on a heating pad. Turn off the hot plate, unplug it, and make sure that the cord is away from the surface. Your instructor will advise you on how solid waste should be discarded. In most cases, solid waste will be placed into one of the hazardous waste containers in the hood. Note that there is more than one solid waste container, and special attention has to be paid to avoid unintended reactions. Used weigh boats should be thrown in the trash. Your instructor will also advise you on how liquid waste should be discarded. Liquid waste containers have funnels with lids that must remain closed when not actively in use. Before you pour, ensure that the waste level is not too high. If it is, alert your instructor immediately. Pour the liquid into the funnel and close the lid immediately after use. All glassware should be washed like you would dishes, using soap and water on a brush or sponge. Glassware should be dried as best as possible with paper towel, then returned to the storage cabinet. To clean up your bench, you should use a wet sponge and detergent to wipe the bench top. Then, rinse the sponge and follow up with a water rinse. Students will also be assigned to a common area to clean before they check out. Once you're done cleaning up, ensure that both you and your lab partner have all data, and check out from the lab by bringing your notebook to be signed by your instructor.